Hey guys, welcome to today's video, and it is finally that time. Yes, it is playoff time. I am super hyped for these games we have this weekend. I think they're going to be fun ones to watch. Um, and this video is going to be my winner and score predictions for those games. I'm adding score predictions just because we only have 4 games. I have a little bit more time to describe each game in detail. So I figured, well, if I get the time, why not add score predictions? So we're going to go in order as the games are, meaning the first game that will happen is the first game I will talk about and predict the winner and score of. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do in this video. I think we're going to have a very, very fun postseason. I think we're going to have some good games, so let's get started. The first game we have is the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, these two teams know each other well, considering they're in the same division, and therefore they played each other twice in the regular season. In fact, this matchup is one of 3 matchups in Wild Card Weekend that we have already seen in the regular season. As a fan, your first initial reaction will probably be like, oh, this is so boring, we've already seen this before. But really, think of it as it'll be more fun to watch because these teams know each other well, and then it almost becomes kind of a mini rivalry because they've played each other already, especially for this game because they kind of already are a rivalry because they're in the same division. But just that familiarity, we've seen you before, we've played you against you before. So I think that will be really fun to watch. And the one game that we haven't seen, and that wasn't a regular season matchup, was the Bears and the Eagles. But Seahawks, Cowboys, this matchup, and Ravens, Chargers, we've all seen in the regular season, which I think is a good thing because it's going to make these teams more familiar with each other and make these teams more ready to play. So, anywho, Texans and the Colts. Let's take a look at it here. These are 2 of the hottest teams in the NFL. The Texans won 11 of their last 13 games. The Colts won, 9 of their last 10? Well, they were 1-5, so they won 9 of their last 10. I think we've got 3 comeback player of the year candidates in this game right now. I think that we've got Deshaun Watson, J.J. Watt, and Andrew Luck are all very legitimate contenders for that award. I think they have all done great things this year in leading their teams to the playoffs. And let's just take into account, the Colts were 1-5, the Texans were 0-3, each at respective points in this season. And then people will start throwing stats at you. Oh, when you're 0-3, you only make the playoffs 1.68% of the time. Or when you're 1-5, you only finish blank when you get to blank percent. But I don't really like to pay attention to that because it's not a 3-game season or a 6-game season. It's a 16-game season. Well, sure, the odds may be against you. You got to play out the season. So, really, these 2 teams defied odds, and this is one of the most unlikely matchups in playoff history, considering how these 2 teams started so slow. But ultimately, let's go to the key factors. The offensive lines in this game. You know how many times Deshaun Watson has been sacked this regular season? 62. That's the most of any quarterback in the NFL. Andrew Luck has been sacked 18 times. They both played the same amount of games, but there's that much of a difference. That is crazy. Give credit to the Colts offensive line. They got the rookie Quentin Nelson, who they picked 6 overall. He's playing great. That whole offensive line is playing great. Well, the Houston Texans, I cannot say the same about because Deshaun Watson is just under pressure, which is not all on the offensive line, but Deshaun Watson has had some things where he gets sacked where he shouldn't have. But the offensive line for Houston they don't have to be great. They just have to do enough to allow Deshaun Watson to find his playmakers, such as DeAndre Hopkins and Kiki QT if he plays, Vincent Smith, the new receiver they brought up from the practice squad, Steven Mitchell, along with DeAndre Carter. Those are their receivers, because that's pretty much all you're going to see probably in this game, because Will Fuller and Demaryius Thomas are both out for the year. Another thing that the offensive line is going to have an impact on is the running game, because Lamar Miller really needs to get going to take some pressure off of Deshaun Watson, so we could, just to take some pressure off of him. So I think ultimately, if Houston's offensive line can do just enough to allow Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins and all those guys to make plays, because they've got playmakers, then I think Houston should be okay. But let's look at the Colts side of the ball. As I said, the Colts offensive line is playing great, but let's take a look at their wide receiver, T.Y. Hilton, against the Texans specifically, because he's a great all-around player, but against the Texans in the 2 regular season matchups they played this year against each other, he has a total of 314 yards in those matchups, and he had 199 yards in one of those games, nearly a 200-yard receiving game. And this year isn't the first time that this has happened, because he, throughout his whole career, has just lit up the Texans. So I think it's going to come down to T.Y. Hilton versus DeAndre Hopkins, who can just who could just do a little bit more. Because I think T.Y. and DeAndre are easily going to have more than a combined 200 yards in this game. This should be fun to watch. But ultimately, I think Houston's offensive line will do just enough to allow Lamar Miller to have some nice runs and allow Deshaun Watson to find his playmakers. DeAndre Hopkins hasn't had a drop all year. I think that stays the same. And I think the Texans beat the Colts 38-33. It's going to be so high scoring because we've got two dynamic quarterbacks that can make plays, two of the best receivers in the game, solid running back, and solid defenses. Because Houston has a lot of playmakers on defense. Because what's going to happen in this game, I feel like Indy's going to be up 33-31. Deshaun Watson's going to find DeAndre Hopkins for a go-ahead touchdown with 2:22 to go. Then the Texans defense is going to hold out the Colts and send the Texans off to Foxborough in the divisional round. This will be a thriller. This is at 3:35 Central Time on ESPN. The Monday Night Football crew is on the call. Should be a good one. We'll see what happens. Next, Dallas Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks. This is an interesting one. You got the Seattle Seahawks, who I doubted at the beginning of the year. I thought this was the end. I thought this was it. I thought this was going to be the year they'd be rebuilding. I thought they'd be at the bottom of the league, possibly picking in the top 5 in the draft. But give credit to them and that whole team, Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, the trio of running backs they have, the receivers, especially the defense, because it's almost like Legion of Boom 2.0. Not quite. I don't know if it'll ever be the same there in Seattle, but it's pretty dang close. Because look at the way they're able to make plays, come up clutch, and even in some of the games they lost, they played well. And look at how they were able to put up 38 points against the Chiefs. Defense was a little bit iffy, but my TV shut off. Ha ha ha. Why does it always do that? I do not know. So while that is reloading, hopefully it should not take long. Russell Wilson put up 38 points against a good Chiefs team. He's a playmaker. He's got a solid trio of running backs. The rookie Rashad Penny and Mike Davis, Chris Carson. If they could all be healthy and be effective, they could really take pressure off of Russell Wilson. The Seahawks offensive line is not quite as bad as Houston's, but they're not exactly the best. While Dallas does have a pretty good offensive line. So let's take a look at this game. Seattle, Russell Wilson is so underrated. We all talk about him being underrated, but we've got to get to the facts. He's a playmaker. He's clutch. He's got the movement. He's mobile. He can get the big play, can make the throw downfield. He's a complete quarterback. He's not as mobile and as run-aroundy Lamar Jackson-y as he used to be, but that's just kind of what happens as you get into the league longer. So I think Russell Wilson's going to make plays. And then you got Dak Prescott. What I like to do with games, I like to go position by position. The quarterback, advantage, Seahawks. Running back, advantage, I got to give it to Dallas, Ezekiel Elliott. Wide receivers. I'm giving it to Seattle. Dak just does not have the weapons. I'm giving it to Seattle. It's close, but I'm giving it to Seattle. Tight end, definitely Dallas. Offensive line, Dallas. Defense, Seattle. And I think Seattle's defense is going to be able to hold Dallas to 20 points and hence lead their team to a win. I think Seattle wins it 31-20, and then Seattle will move on to the next round. I can't tell you who I think they're going to play because that gives away who I think will win the Bears-Eagles game. But Seattle lives to fight another week, and they get to win on the road because this Seattle team, they're a complete team, and they played in a tough division because they had to deal with the Rams. I mean, the Rams were the only thing other thing tough about that division. But you know what? They played the Rams. They've seen some of the NFL's best. They've seen the Rams. They've seen the Chiefs. They've played those two teams well. Even if they didn't win, they still played them well. I like Seattle's odds in this one. I think Seattle takes it 31-20 and is moving on. I like this picture. It's just a nice picture. The two helmets. So that's not really relevant. But okay, Chargers and the Ravens. The Chargers 12-4 and a wild card. Ouch. That does not happen much. The last time it happened was the year of Super Bowl 51 when the Raiders went 12-4 and had to go be the 5 seed and play Houston on the road, which they ultimately lost. But you know what? You are where you are, and the way I see it, if you're truly worthy of going and winning the Super Bowl, it shouldn't matter who you have to play or where you have to play. Because if you think you could win the Super Bowl, which therefore if you think you could call yourself the NFL's best, you should be able to beat anybody anywhere. Because if you're the best, if you're the champion of this league, you should theoretically be able to beat anyone, anywhere, anytime. So while if the Chargers want to go to the Super Bowl, they will very likely have to play 3 road games. If you're worthy of being in the Super Bowl, Los Angeles, you should be able to beat anybody, anywhere, and that applies to every other team too. I don't care if you have to go to Arrowhead or Foxborough, and it's negative 3 degrees out. If you are truly the best football team in the world, you should be able to win anywhere, anytime, any place, any condition. Because it's true, because that's just how it is, and I believe that goes for every team. So, although this is a tough one for the Chargers, a 12-4 team going to visit the AFC North champions who are 10-6. This is going to be an interesting one because these teams met each other not that long ago in Los Angeles. The Ravens beat the Chargers 22-10 on a Saturday edition of football in Week 16. Let me read you Lamar Jackson's stats. He didn't exactly go off, but he had a solid game. 12 for 22 passing, 54.55 completion percent, 204 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 39 rush yards. So he didn't exactly go off. And you know what? I feel like that was just a down game for the Chargers because they were able to contain Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson's not a player that we see every day. He's a new type of quarterback, a extremely runny quarterback. I don't know if runny is an adjective, but it is now. He's a runny quarterback. He runs around a lot. I mean, we can debate for hours if that's good or bad. I mean, if it works, it's worked. He's only lost 1 game as a starter. He's helped his team win the AFC North, and this is going to be a defensive battle because you got 2 complete teams and 2 of the more complete teams in the AFC. That doesn't necessarily mean you're the best team, but you can be the most complete team if you have the talent kind of spread out. But look at the Chargers. They have that talent kind of spread out. While the Chiefs, more of their talent is definitely on the offensive side of the ball. The Ravens are another one of those teams that kind of have it spread out like butter on bread. While the Chiefs are kind of like you pour syrup on a pancake and it just like stays in one spot. It's not like where you take the knife and spread it out. It just kind of like stays there on their offense. Okay, we somehow talked about pancakes, but bottom line, Chiefs and Chargers and Ravens, very good game. Tough environment for the Chargers, but you know what? I think that Phillip Rivers is having a great year. He's been so underrated, as has Russell Wilson, who we talked about earlier. He's got the Keenan Allen, he's got the Mike Williams, he's got the Tyrell Williams, he's got the 3 good running backs. Obviously, most people know Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. If they can stay healthy, I think they can be impacts in this game. And then the guy, if something happens to one of those guys, look at Justin Jackson, the 7th-round pick out of Northwestern. Northwestern's all-time leading rusher. In that Pittsburgh game, he really impressed me because of the way the Chargers' top 2 running backs were out, and he was able to step in, get a touchdown, and help his team win that game on the road, which that game was the game that officially won me over on the Chargers. So I think the Chargers just have enough offensive weapons, just enough to get past one of the best defenses in the league, and the Chargers are going to win this game 19-16, and the LA Chargers are going to face the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round because they're going to win. It's going to be close, hard fought, 2 great teams, 2 great offenses, 2 complete teams, a very fun one to watch. This game is at Sunday, 12 p.m. Central on CBS, and I just realized I forgot to tell you guys, the Seahawks-Cowboys game is Saturday night on Fox. So just making sure you know where and when to watch all those games. All right, last but certainly not least, the Chicago Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles. I cannot believe the Eagles are here. You look at it, they were 6-7. Then they go on Sunday Night Football to play one of the NFC's best, the Los Angeles Rams. As the odds were last year, the odds were stacked against them. Nobody thought the Eagles could beat the Rams. Well, you know what? They did. And then all of a sudden, they're right in the mix. Then they played a very good Texans team that was vying for a first-round bye. By this point, a lot of people were picking them to beat the Texans, but you know what? That was a hard-fought game. Nick Foles went off. Nelson Aguilar had a huge game, and the defense did just enough at the end. Or I shouldn't say that. The offense did just enough at the end. Defense almost cost them the game to allow Jake Elliott to make the game-winning kick and keep the Eagles alive in playoff contention. And then in a must-win and must-win scenario, they shut out and dominate the Redskins 24-0. Which, say what you want about their quarterback situation, You go on the road in the must-win scenario and win 24 to nothing. I don't care who you're playing or what their record is. That's impressive. And then I feel like they did something along the lines of like going to like Doug Peterson's house after the game, and like watching the Bears Vikings game because that was a late game. I just feel like after that game, when there was still time left in the Bears game, they all probably went like by Doug Peterson's house and just like hung out. That's just my theory because I can just see Doug Peterson as that kind of guy. That's just kind of the impression I get. But I don't know. But anyway, after this game, after the Eagles beat the Redskins, they had to root for the Bears to beat the Vikings. So the Vikings needed to lose for the Eagles to win. So the Eagles had to root for the Bears like there was no tomorrow, because if the Bears lost, there would be no tomorrow for the Philadelphia Eagles. They'd be out of the playoffs if the Bears beat Minnesota in Week 17. Now they have to beat the Bears like there's no tomorrow, because if they don't beat the Bears, there is no tomorrow. They're done, and there will be a new Super Bowl 53 champion. Okay, Nick Foles, yes, he's done great things. We've seen this before. But the Bears defense, the monsters on the midway are back. Look at the addition of Khalil Mack. We know the impact he's had on that team. I think he's possibly, maybe, a defensive player of the year candidate. But I think he's super valuable to that team. Which, we don't need to argue who's better, him or Aaron Donald, but Mack is valuable. He's important. You felt the winning culture as soon as he came into the city of Chicago, a week or two before the season came in. He made an immediate impact in a team that hadn't won the division since 2010. Give credit to also Matt Nagy, the first-year head coach, who led them to their first NFC North championship, as I said, since 2010. You look at, as long as Nick Foles has been on his little storybook ride, has he seen a defense like this? No, he hasn't. And while Mitchell Trubisky, he's still kind of developing. He's not a bust, but he's not quite there yet. He's developing. I think Tariq Cohen will have a huge impact on that game, allowing Mitchell Trubisky to have, take the pressure off of him, because the Eagles got a heck of a defensive line. You got Chris Long, brother of offensive guard for the Bears, Kyle Long. What's his name? Fletcher Cox, who's done great things. And you really look at that whole defensive line. That's going to be a huge impact in this game. But ultimately, this game is just, the Bears defense is way better. I think the Bears defense is the best defense in the playoffs. The Bears defense will outduel the Eagles, and the Eagles, they're just not going to be able to hang with them, maybe for the first half, but ultimately, Bears win it 37-13 and send the Eagles flying home with an L, because the Bears are just too good on defense for Nick Foles to do what he's done against the Redskins and the Texans and the Rams. Bears win it. The Bears would go. So let's say all my predictions hold true, because I think the Texans, Seahawks, Chargers, and Bears are going to win this week. If that holds true, in the NFC, the Bears would play the Rams, and the Seahawks would play the Saints in the divisional round. The AFC, if this holds true, I have the Texans playing the Patriots at Foxborough, and then the Chargers going to play Kansas City in Arrowhead. That is pretty much it. We have a very, very, very good postseason on tap. It starts Saturday afternoon. I am so excited for this. I hope you guys are too, because it's going to be quite a ride. Super Bowl 53 is a month away as I'm filming this. Thank you guys for watching. I am so hyped for the postseason. I hope you are too. You should be. We have some good games. It's going to be a fun month of January for football fans. We'll see what happens. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe. As always, feel free to comment.